I changed my shirt from my PJs to I got all dressed up for you.
You're so funny. I put a sweater over my PJs.
Exactly. And then I covered it up with a jacket. So anyway, okay, I did ask permission to record.
Yes. And
The
I
other
see.
thing I'm thinking about, and I'm thinking about starting a channel after I edit the videos, and then in the comments put the link or somehow put the link to the work of the people that I'm talking to. So far, I only have two, and you and somebody else, and like one at a time, and then the comments. But I want to write about this somehow. I want some kind of text, which becomes a problem.
Oh,
So I might have to, you've seen my website, which I'm still working on. I need to take a couple more pictures. And I thought I would write and maybe have a link to the channel there and then write about what it is I'm seeing.
oh, great.
But these are just the technical things that I wanted to get your okay on. If you don't mind me having your videos on a channel or anything.
Okay, so what I can say about that, Anadora, is I might be a little bit more guarded.
Oh, I would edit out anything that, um, like,
Information from me would be very, very important to share. It's maybe when I mention someone else's name that,
oh, okay,
yeah,
okay.
when I talk about a third person, which in my world has a slippery spot, it somehow becomes gossip when I'm talking about another person. But if I'm talking about myself, it's an open book.
You never talked about another person last time.
Well, I just mentioned the grandbabies.
No, that's
Yeah.
what I mean. That
Yeah.
would be the part that was me asking you about how you were going to handle moving away.
Right.
That's
And
a
so that's
personal.
that's very, very good for me, Anadora, to be aware that little comments like that do not add to our conversation.
No, that was a personal insight
Yeah.
for my benefit because I also feel like I just met you. You're moving to Santa Cruz. Is that where you're moving or Santa?
No,
I never know.
Costa
Costa
Rica.
Rica.
Uh-huh.
I
Uh-huh.
never know where this place is, so I have enough trouble knowing where I was. And so you're moving to Costa Rica, and then I'm like, well, I see all those videos, and you're selling stuff out of your house and everything. But when do I contact you again? When do you become available again? When do you Yeah, I can watch all the old videos and all that, and I can use them or I can put links to them. But as for you, when do I get access to you again? And I'm sure a lot of your people in the village where you or Patreon or are asking themselves when they see Robin you packing up and taking off, you know.
Right. Yeah. And I will still be available Zoom wise. They have very good internet there. So that is not a problem. Yeah.
So would you still be doing your channels?
I still will be doing the channels. I'm just not sure um, what medium I'm going to be playing in. That I don't know that, but I'm still doing my channels. I'm still doing my classes, my online classes, things like that. Yes. Those things
Tell
are
me about your online classes.
okay. So I have, well, the like on January 16th, this is the first one that's coming up. We are having a little
And in Michigan?
Okay, no, this one is online. So next
Okay.
Sunday, okay, next Sunday from 10 until 2 on Zoom, I have a gathering of people that have unfinished art projects that want to come together on Zoom and interact with one another, be encouraged by one another. I won't be creating art. I will constantly be looking at people and seeing where they're stuck, but it's called UFOs, unfinished objects, and we'll play on the table for 4 hours via Zoom. So this is how I've been teaching for the last couple of years, is on Zoom. And when I teach on Zoom, people get from me a video about the project and a PDF that has the supply list and the step-by-step instructions. So we go through them like that. I have everybody on the Zoom page, and I'm constantly, for however long the class is, it's usually from 10 until 5. I am constantly, or 10 until 4, I'm constantly looking at people and seeing how they're doing. It looks like that person is stuck, so I check in with them. So that's how I've been teaching for 2 years.
And then do you charge for these per
Mhm.
person or for the
Correct.
class, or do they
Correct.
buy a packet, or what happens?
Okay, so I charge for the class. If I go back a little bit, the classes were 4 weeks long every Sunday. And the classes, I'm going to say, were $135 for the 4 weeks. So people would pay $135 on PayPal. They would get the Zoom information. And then every Sunday we would come together via Zoom and have a class. And they've already got all of their information on what project we're doing that day.
But that's your project. You said if they were stuck with their project, and in this class, you're going to teach, they're working on their projects.
That's correct. So I won't be so much teaching and that class is from 10 until 2 with me. And then from 2 until 3, they will be on Zoom without me, just amongst themselves, talking amongst themselves. And that particular class, if you can call it a class, it's more of a support, is $25 for that 4 or 5 hours. And it's not so much a class as it is just a support, 4 hours of support. Where are you stuck? How can I help? What are you doing? What do you want to do? That kind of thing.
Okay. And your other classes are that you are really working on your project, and they're following or not following along at home,
Correct.
or they're watching you make this project.
They are playing as well. They are playing on the table. I'm not playing. My playing is done. I'm just 100% present for them. They are playing with the project. They've seen the video, they have the instructions, we've talked about it, and now it's their turn to go play.
I have seen two women that were part of your village that gave you credit for their projects, and I did look at them and I did see, and I saw the influences
Uh-huh.
of what you have been doing and what they were trying to do. So now, so I have been watching this, and I wondered how and when, where they started, where they started doing this project that they worked on with you, or the village as they call it, or they were part of the village and they did this project and LorriMarie helped them do the project.
Yeah, yeah. So, what was the project? Do you recall?
Well, one, I recall that it was, not really.
Okay.
They were almost like UFOs. In one
Mhm.
of them, they were very
Was it a book or was it an
and
art
they're
piece?
both books. They were
Okay.
both books.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, people are the majority of people that take my classes that go forward and create their own channels. They're wonderful about dropping my name. They are just, they're just wonderful. They're very giving about that. I have a few people that not so much, but I'm, after years of doing this, I'm okay with that too.
And
Whatever.
how many years have you been doing this?
I think I'm in my fifth or sixth year with YouTube. I think. I think that's about right.
And then what about the people who want to buy your work, like who want to buy the actual book that you made? That
All right.
they go ahead.
So the book that I am making in Michigan, the little I did you get to see that video,
The
Annadora?
board book, yeah,
Yeah,
I
the
saw
little
that.
okay, so the little board book with the face on the front, the transfer on the front, kind of girly, kind of some pink colors and stuff like that. So I tapped into my email this morning, and I have somebody that wants to purchase that book. So they'll usually let me know in a comment if they want to buy it. They sell pretty quickly, and I don't sell them for a lot of bucks. This book will sell for, she offered me $75, Annadora, and it's hers for $75. If she's reached out for $75 and wants that book, it's hers. It's hers. So
But there isn't, so every time you make one of these books, somebody is waiting somewhere to buy it.
yes, yes, yeah.
Okay.
So I made
What do
an.
you,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
All right, so there was another book that I made, the Unacaras, Mucho Unacaras. It's the video that went out this morning. Anyway, that's already sold too. Somebody saw that and bought that. So people that contact me and say, "Do you have any art for sale?" It's like, yeah, no, I don't. Not really, not anymore, because it sells so quick. But I'm not here to make hundreds of dollars. Somebody wants it, I'm glad to pass it on.
Well, I have a question now. We've talked about your series of um the dresses, the girls' dresses that look to me like communion dresses, or like dresses, christening dresses, the long, they, and you dip them in wax. We were going to talk about uh, how you did that.
Okay. So I think I dragged you around the house a little bit last time and showed you a dress,
Yeah,
didn't I?
you showed me the different things.
Yeah, okay. I have one that's really close. Let me grab, she's one of my favorites. I've sold a few of them, which is really, really nice. I thought I had sold her, but let me grab her because she's fun. You'll enjoy her. She's just in the living
Okay.
room. Okay.
Oh, that's fine.
Okay. Let me see.
Oh yeah. I've seen her, but not up close.
So she hangs. And then underneath, if we go underneath
Is a
her,
heart.
yeah, there's a heart in there, but this is one of those, if you put that metal thing this way, it's one of those things that you put a moss garden in and put on your house.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what her frame is. And then this is mica,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and then some brads. So let me
That's a pretty big piece of mica.
that's a very big piece of mica. Good luck finding those pieces, huh?
Yeah, I don't think you can find those pieces that large.
Yeah, that was a good find. But see how big she is against my body? She's big.
But to me, she still looks like a little girl or a baby.
Oh,
And
definitely.
but let me ask you now. Tell me about the process while you're holding her up. How did you get? Do you brush on hot wax? Do you?
Let me hang her up. Let me hang.
Okay.
The process is so fun, Annadora.
What I like about you, LorriMarie, is that you love doing all this.
I love it. All right, so I have an electric frying pan,
Mhm.
and I have, I'll say 1 pound of beeswax, and I melt the beeswax at 350 degrees. And then once it's to that, I don't add anything to that beeswax. It's just beeswax. And I usually have, we usually have bees in the backyard. And so I have an access to some organic wax, which still has like the little bee wings and things like that in it. I don't care. I love that. But now it's just 100%. We don't have bees right now, but now it's just 100% organic beeswax. I heat that to 350 degrees. I take that very fragile little cotton dress and I take it and I smush it down in the frying pan of wax. I have a chopstick in this hand and a chopstick in this hand. I put that in the sleeves of the upper sleeves of the dress and I pull it out of the wax and it's hot, 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 hot. And I let some of the wax drip off. And then I can start to manipulate the dress. As soon as I can touch that dress, although it's really still hot and I get lots of wax on my hands, the majority of the wax has dripped back into the frying pan because I've lifted it up. And I can manipulate that dress and put the little pleats and puffs back into the dress. And as it cools, it gets its own personality. And it can be nice and full. Now, if there's, go ahead.
When do you put it on your frame?
After it's cool, I will get the frame and I will put the frame, if I have a frame, some of them don't have frames, but the one that we just visited with has that frame. So I put the frame under there. And if there's any kinks or places that don't quite fit very well, I take a heat gun and I hit that wax and it's very friendly and it'll adapt to the structure.
So that was one series. And that was the one that you told me. No, you were making baskets before.
Okay, so you heard me say baskets and I said weavings. So
Well,
to
but they
revisit,
were in the shape of baskets,
no,
or
I carried them in a basket. That's where you
oh,
heard me
you
say basket.
carried them in a basket.
Mhm. Yeah,
Okay,
but they were, they were not very big. They were about this big, and they were the weavings. And then I would have images of vintage women that I was drawn to.
right,
Yes, and I would
right.
dip them in wax, and then I would put them on the weavings. Yeah.
Okay, so we have one series of these women, famous women like Jackie Kennedy, Marilyn Monroe,
Judy
which you
Garland,
would,
yes,
Judy Garland, that you would look for pictures of, and then do weavings. I'm sorry, I'm getting over COVID. Look at the weaving, put the weavings, have these women carry them in the basket. You carried them to a gallery, you showed them, and they were all sold out,
right.
which is fascinating because
Well, when you say it, it's fascinating.
it is fascinating. So, how many of those would you say you had?
I would say I probably had a dozen of those. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And then the dresses, how many of those would you say you
I
had?
had 13 of those dresses.
Okay.
Yeah.
13 dresses, a dozen weavings with the prominent women, and then um okay, so where do we go from there?
Oh, you're so good about calling things a series where I call them just phases. So I don't know where I went from there. Um, I think close after that, I started teaching. Um, and so as I'm talking to you about this, there's a definite shift in my artwork because it came from like expelling something to sharing something. Kind of like, if I can do this, you can do this too. I've only done this once, but oh my gosh, come on, do it a second time with me. It's really, really fun. So there was a shift for me. It was like I didn't have the demons that I needed to get rid of anymore. It was more like I having playmates. Having playmates. Hmm, that's interesting.
So when you were teaching, did you teach at a university, at a college, or you were
I would
privately
teach,
teaching?
I would teach wherever I could find a space big enough that I could afford.
So this was, you were a businesswoman in a sense from the beginning. From when you started in my, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not telling you, I'm asking. I just want to make that very clear. So at some point you shifted to teaching, and then, so when did the altered books then come in?
Okay, so yes, you are correct in saying I've always been an entrepreneur. I feel like I've been, who's that little gal that turns the straw into gold? Is that, it's a children's story.
Rumpelstiltskin is the
Rumpelstiltskin,
Rumpelstiltskin.
yes, that's the story. And that's who I relate to constantly, because if you put me in a room with a bunch of old papers, I will create something that I can sell. I mean, it just happens. So, okay, to back up, I started teaching, and I started teaching on anything flat that we could find. I would go to building sites and get pieces of drywall and take the drywall to the class and say, okay, this is your substrate. Let's make art on this piece of drywall. You know, any place that I could find things that people could create on for free. And so where does the altered book come in? I took a class from Sharon Payne Bolton, a very, very talented bookmaker, amazing artist. And that must have been the beginning for me. That must have been the beginning of books for me, although I didn't realize it at the time. So I'm just kind of trying to follow the thread. How did this happen? And I think what happened is somebody must have given me a pile of books. And I said, what do I do with these books? I'm going to use these books as a substrate. And so the early altered books were just that. They were just pages with artwork on them. They didn't have the little nooks, the little crannies, the little hidey holes, things like that. They were just, yep.
Now those books, do you have any of those?
Zero.
Okay, what happened to those books?
The early books were probably gifted. Yeah, probably gifted. So I can't even give you a time frame on when I made the early books. It just made sense in my mind to use those as a substrate.
When you say substrate, many people would not understand what that means. What does that mean?
Well, if they don't know what that means, they better take one of my classes, Annadora. So for me, a substrate is anything that I can create artwork on, whether it's a piece of paper, a piece of cardboard, in this case, a book, a canvas, a raw canvas, a canvas board, anything that they are creating their artwork on. I would call that a substrate. A brick, a rock, anything.
Okay, so you made these early books that are given away, or, and you kept teaching. You kept teaching and you evolved. Am I getting this correct? You
You are
evolved.
getting this correct. Oh, you know what? I'm going to back up to some of the first books that I made because something has clicked. The first books that I played with It must have been somebody gave me some old books. I'm going to stick with that story. And I started carving out the inside of the books and making, making a cubby hole in that book, if you will. That's where it started. How am I going to use these old books? I'll carve them out and I will give them as gifts. Put a fun image on the front and give them as gifts. To my boys, I don't know what they put in them. I probably don't want to know. And that's how that happened. By my nightstand is a book that I carved out, and it has my clock inside. So it's 3/4 of a part of a book, and then my clock is tucked inside that book. So that's how I started to use those first books.
And for my edification, my learning about this particular thing, how did you carve out? Like, did you use an X-Acto knife to stab it, or what do you do?
Okay, so yes, I did. Can I have just a moment? I'll go and grab a book.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'll be right back. All right. So here's a book and it's called A Thing of Beauty. The little title page says A Thing of Beauty. All right. Now this is one thing. This is a book I made for my dad. I have no idea when. I've not dated it. I've not signed it. I'm so bad about that. All right. Here's the front of the book. That's me. All right. Underpants on the back of the book. Underpants on the front of the book, an image of me. And then I did, with a paintbrush, I did put beeswax on that. And it kind of drips down. You can see, I don't know if you can see, it's kind of rough on the bottom. And this is where the beeswax kind of dripped down. All right. This is solid on the side. And then there's the cubby hole.
And I'm still trying to figure out how you cut that thing out.
With an X-Acto and patience.
That, for you, who doesn't like a straight line most of the time,
Yeah.
this must have taken a lot of patience.
So the magic of this is you don't have to glue every page together. All right. You glue some together, but then the Mod Podge around the edge will create that stability. All right. So what I do is I take a few pages, like half of these pages. Let's say this book has 125 pages. So I take 65 pages and glue them down and cut them, and then the other 65 pages and glue and cut them. It sounds like it's laborious, but it's not. It goes pretty quickly, or I wouldn't be able to do it. So these were my first projects. Here's a fun book, and I did nothing to it. It's an Alice in Wonderland book, which is very, very fun. This sits in our cabinet, and it has a hidey hole in that as well. And in some of them, I would reinsert a picture in the back that went along with the book. So there's two examples of my early books that I altered. Those would be the very earliest altered books right there. And then how did it evolve? Boredom. Boredom is a wonderful tool because it makes me scoot to the next level. It's like, okay, if I can make a hidey hole in that, why don't I make a hidey hole in the back, secret compartment in the back, and then have fun with the pages using them as substrates as well. Are you tired of me talking?
No, not at all. I I actually watch your videos and I am just amazed because I think of them, I watch them and there's something Marquez about them. Um, have you ever read 100 Years of Solitude?
No.
You should read. Let me 100 Years of Solitude by
Okay.
Gabriel Garcia Marquez. And he has been criticized that poor people's lives are not magical in a way, that he made a magical
Mm-hmm.
story about people's lives that were maybe not as magical as he made them, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Mm-hmm.
But I think, like Nick Bantock
Oh,
and Griffin and Sabine, you
yes.
would love, you would love um, Gabriel Garcia Marquez. You would love the 100 Years of Solitude.
Okay.
You don't have to read anything else. You just have to read 100 Years of Solitude
Okay.
because the imagery in that,
Oh, okay.
the imagery, there's an image of one girl, for example, that I can never get out of my head. She's being chased by 1,000 butterflies.
Oh my
And
God.
you can just see her running through the fields or, you know, and having these butterflies follow her around. Anyway, read it and then tell me what you think. But the thing is, send me an email. Read it on the plane, read it on a train, read it on a bus, read it wherever you can. Because I think the imagery would fascinate you. The, Greta, my dogs. They, I, I didn't get to go out yesterday. They didn't get to go out this morning. The wind chill was -11.
Ooh.
So my lungs yesterday, there was no wind chill, but it was like 14 and my lungs didn't feel quite right. Even though I'm over the quarantine period
Uh-huh.
of COVID, my lungs didn't feel it quite right.
Yeah.
In any way, that was my roommate or my housemate coming in from church. So
Oh, nice.
they went crazy. They always go crazy. Okay, so let's go on. So what like what I saw today or yesterday evening was the one where you had put uh, a photograph of flowers, like maybe in a vase, on one of those acetate sheets,
Oh, yes.
and then had a window, and then had a woman with a crow,
Mm.
and I actually went to your Amazon page after I saw that because the luminary paints or luminaire or
Yeah.
whatever paints, and then the uh, then the um, hand cleanser,
Oh, yeah,
sanitizer.
yeah. Yes, yes,
You
yes.
mixed it on your Teflon sheet,
Yes.
and then the other woman that was like leaning, which you call your focal point, so I should use the right term, and kind of spotted her with a little yellow or whatever. I just I just found magical. I
Mm.
mean, it was like there's no end to Lori Marie's imagery. But the thing is, I don't think you think of it as symbolic, do you?
I do not. I don't. And it is humbling for me to hear someone like yourself think that my work is symbolic. It's humbling. It is, yeah.
Why is it humbling?
Because for me, my art is so simple. There's a simplicity to my art. And for someone like you to look at that and be told a story, to say, oh my gosh, it's magic.
Yeah, but the thing is, it tells a story. I mean, I don't know what the story is, but it tells a story. Maybe it's an unconscious story. You know what I mean? It's not a conscious story. It's not like, oh,
I mean, I love that. I love that you see a story. And on my end, it's just like, oh, let's try something new. And I,
but the thing is, every time you try something new, you put it together in a way that's magical. I mean, the 3 pages that I'm talking to you about,
mm-hmm,
the 3 pages that I'm talking to you about, the woman with the crow, the acetate vase with flowers,
yep,
and then the other woman looking like she's bending over a chair or something. So maybe you're a surrealist and you don't know it, but
right.
that's all right. We all are what we are. So that's fascinating. It's just um I when I look at these things, I and unfairly, I want to say where does this fall in the history of art? Where where is this coming from?
Uh-huh.
Where is this? I'm not surprised that you're moving to South America. I'm hoping that I'm right about that. I wasn't about, you know, uh, whatever. So I won't say it again because I have it in my head that it's someplace else. But anyway, um, and it's stuck there. But
So Costa Rica is the size of West Virginia, very, very
okay.
small. And it borders, because I'm horrible with this kind of stuff, and it borders on Panama.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that I can wrap my head around. It's like, okay, got it. That I can remember. So, yeah.
So anyway, so a symbolist, you say you're not, but every page, every motion, every image, and you say also that you're untrained in a way, that you came about this. Did Rob have an influence? Just
Oh, Rob
asking.
was the influence. Absolutely.
Can I
So,
hear something about meeting him and how that evolved and all that?
do you want to hear that, Anadora?
Yeah.
It's such a great story. It is such a great story. So, I had seen Rob in the art world. We were both living in Benicia, California. I'm going to stick my bread pudding in the oven. Hold on. Okay. So we were both living in Benicia. I saw him in the circles of the art world. I thought, oh my goodness, what a little cutie pie. Oh my goodness. So I was chefing at a local cafe, and he would come in once in a while and have breakfast, and I was familiar with what he did. He was a glass blower, and I also had my catering company on the side, and I sold my food, my vegetarian fare, at a street market. And so he would walk past, and I'm like, oh, he's got such a cute little bounce in his step. He's just adorable. What a cutie pie. And so one time he came up and he bought some of my food. And shortly after that, it was my 45th birthday. and I was chefing that day. And one of his glass blowing buddies came in, and the little waitress is like, "Oh my gosh, small town. Ever, I'd been there for a while. Small town. Oh my gosh, it's LorriMarie's birthday. So exciting. She's 45 years old today. La 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 la." And his name was Jonathan. So yay, happy birthday! Jonathan went off to work. At lunchtime, Rob walked into the cafe with this big white box with a big gold ribbon on the top. And he said, I hear it's your birthday today. And I'm like, okay. So he's heard it's my birthday. I'm sure Jonathan mentioned that I'm 45 today. So, okay, he must be okay with that. And I'm like, oh, opened it up, and it was a hand blown vase with a little note that said, if you ever want to go for a walk, give me a call. So I waited the 3 appropriate days before I called him and told him, thank you for the vase and thank you for making my birthday wonderful. And I was interested in going for a walk. So we set up a time. He lived in an apartment on the main street of this small town. And so I went knock, knock, knock on the door, and he answered the door, and I went in, and I sat down and I looked at him and I said, so how old are you? And he said, well, how old do you think I am? I said, well, I don't care as long as you're older than my oldest son. Rob's birthday is in 1969. Jeremy's birthday is in 1971. And we have been together ever since that day. And that's 22 years ago. Now that's a
You
good
said
story.
25.
That we've been together?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's 22. We got together
22.
when I was 45, and I'm 67 now. So we've been together for 22 years.
Wow. How old was he? I can't count
He was
backwards.
29 years old,
He
Annadora.
was 29 years old. Well, that was a good match. For you, that was a good match.
I guess.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
That's fantastic.
that's a good story. Yeah.
And then when
Oh,
you said you were it was moving around in the art world and so on, and that's how you met him, may I ask, were you already doing your pieces?
no.
No.
Mm-mm. No, I was not. No, I wasn't at all. Um, no, I was cooking and doing hair and that kind of thing. I wasn't doing art at all. Never even thought that I could ever be an artist, ever, ever, ever. And then I got to see some of Rob's artwork, and Rob is more, at that time, more of a lowbrow artist by far, very dark work. When I first saw it, I thought, holy crap, buddy, is there something you need to talk about? Because this is really dark art. And so he introduced me into a world of imperfect art. And really, what I
What do you
said,
mean by imperfect art?
I was raised in Detroit at the fine art museums. So to me, that was perfect art. The paintings were perfect, the sculpting was perfect. And Rob introduced me into the mixed media, assemblage, the darker side, which I don't know that I ever would have even classified it as art. I don't know where I would have put that. There was no pigeonhole for me to put that stuff. It's just like we would go to these little shows and stuff, and I'm like, what the hell? This is art? You put a shoe on somebody's head and that's called art. I just didn't get it. And but that kind of artwork gave me permission, because I always say, I would look at Rob's artwork and I would say, if that's art, I can do that. And that's how it started for me.
Wow. Rob was the inspiration for creating almost anything. He
Absolutely.
gave you the freedom.
Absolutely.
Somebody
Absolutely.
said that. Somebody on my Facebook page said, She was a doctor by trade, but an artist at heart. Maybe you were a chef by trade and uh, a, a vegetarian cook by trade, but an artist by heart. And Beating Rob brought that out.
Absolutely. Now, have you read, did I get you a copy of The Little Girl with Painted Hands?
You said you were going to send me a copy, but you didn't.
All right. Shame, shame, shame. All right. Will you do me a huge favor? And it's a probably again. Would you please do me a huge favor again and send me your address so that I only have 3 copies left of the book. So I want to get one to you.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I just want you to know about my books. If you go to annadora-arts.com, annadora-arts.com, there's a link to my Be Press page. When you go in there, there are 3 things. There's my thesis,
Uh-huh.
which is on Judy Chicago, which is why I'm so interested in women's art and women doing business and doing, creating and all that. And that was in 1979, so that was years ago. But I ever since then I haven't really found women artists until I came across the lockdown and came across
Mhm.
junk journal makers.
Yes.
And then they were involved in the business of art. So they weren't going to museums, they weren't going to galleries necessarily.
Right.
They were creating everything, like you said, and then they were selling them online. But you don't even do that. But in any case, I mean, you don't use don't they have like Etsy pages and things
Right.
like that
Yeah.
where they sell digitals, and it's a whole different world. But in any case, uh on that page, the Be Press page, if you go click on the link, there are my books and you can download them.
Oh, nice.
And then you
Okay.
can print them. There's Sketchbox Stories and there's Monsoon. Monsoon is a collection of tankas and haikus, which are Japanese form.
Mm-hmm.
And then Sketchbox Stories is, and if you print them in color, then you get everything. But if you send me your book, then I will return the favor and send you a copy of Monsoon.
Oh, I
So
would love that.
sure, and then you can have one of mine.
Oh, that'd be so great. That would be
But you
so great.
but you can also download whatever you want on that
Okay.
one page.
Okay.
And you might go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish your
That was
thought.
it.
Okay. Done. In The Little Girl with Painted Hands, I don't know if did I read it to you?
You read me parts of it.
Okay. So as she, overcomes some of her fear because she's in total isolation because of her hands, she is greeted by a boy and his tribe. So, and he has painted hands. So in my world, I am the little girl with painted hands, and Rob is the one that brings the tribe of the other people with painted hands. That's the essence of that book. It's my life meeting Rob and how that opened my world up.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Is there anything, we're close to an hour and you're baking bread and I don't want to take up any more of your time, and I'm hoping that we'll do this again as I watch and as I learn more and have more things to say. Is there anything you want to say about the work that you're doing now? You're teaching, you're
Yes,
do you
there
have
is.
influences? Are there people who influence besides Rob?
I thought of something when I was listening to you say that these people sold their things on Etsy, and that is not an avenue that I chose to go down because my what I am selling, and I hate to even say that word, but the exchange of money with me is the exchange of my sharing of allowing people, giving people the freedom to create. That's what I sell. If I make a product like an altered book, that's not the purpose in my teaching. That is not the destination. After that class, if somebody says I'll give you $5 for that book, it's like I'll take $5 for the book. That has served its purpose. The journey was pulling these people along with me. That's what I'm about. That's what I'm about. Not the concrete book or whatever. That just happened. It's this stuff. That's the juiciness for me. Does that make any sense at all?
Of course, whatever rings your bells, as you say, or rings. You can tell I'm an avid watcher of your chat. Your
Well, when you show up in your underpants, Annadora, I know we're pals.
channel. Oh dear. But anyway, well, I do watch that, and you did, and I think you gave me a history. Basically, it's book arts, right? It's the person that you met that showed you book arts. Did you meet one last question? When you met this woman that made the art books, or you took this class, had you already been starting to make your books? Had you already done your children's dresses or
Yes.
books?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So she was just had you cut through like the
Yes.
book that you made for your dad? You'd already
Yes.
done that.
Yeah.
There was like nothing. It was just Rob. It was just
Just
meeting
rock.
Rob, meeting Rob's world, meeting the other painted hands,
Yep.
and being exposed to that art world that made you do what you did,
Yep. That
and
made me.
being given books, and you saying, what should I do with this, and then coming up with, there's nobody, there's nothing that happened at all that made you, there's nothing that clicked, or you just said, hey, I can do this.
Yeah.
I
Yep.
can fix this book. I'll take out half of it.
Exactly.
I'll take out as much as I want.
And that was the birth of the underpants.
I love that. I love the woman that sent you the book called The Underpants. That was hilarious. And you were like, oh, she altered the book inside.
Yeah.
That was wild.
Yeah. But I mean, that's the truth. It's like that was the birth of the underpants because I had cut all of these pages out of these books. What am I going to do with them? Ah, I'll make backgrounds with them. That's how that evolved.
Do you think that part of doing this, or doing is like a sustainable universe? You
Yes,
have bees in
definitely.
your backyard. You use everything, old books, old matter, material. When you had the books taken apart, you used them as underpants
Yep.
or underlinings or for your uh, substrates, you know.
Yep. Definitely. There's a funny little story about one of the villagers, and I may have already shared this with you, but she was at one of these mega marts with her husband, and they went in and she says, I need to go in and get some rice, 5 pounds of rice. And he's like, well, we have rice at home. And she's like, yeah, yeah. But I need it for a rice bag to hold my underpants down. And so they're walking along and walking along. And she says, oh, and I need duct tape too. And he turned around and he looked at her and he said, sweetheart, if your underpants are in that bad a shape, just buy new ones. I always thought that was so adorable because he thought she was patching up her underpants with duct tape and holding them down with a rice bag.
Well, obviously, he didn't know what she was doing on the side. That's all I
Obviously.
have to say. She could have been doing anything with her underpants, and it would have come as a surprise to him.
Right. Oh
Oh,
gosh.
wow. So, you still heading out in March, do you think?
I'm heading out in March. In February, these are our plans. In February, we're heading to the Grand Canyon. In March, Rob and I will return to Costa Rica. He's there now. We will go and look at the areas that he has, I'll say, fallen in love with, and see if they also click with me. And then in April, I go to Michigan and teach. And then June 1st, we will be in Costa Rica to live.
And are you going to sell the house? Is it on the market or?
We are going to sell the house, and it will be going on the market April 1st. So they sell very quickly in the Bay Area. So April 1st should give us plenty of time to sell it. And that was a kind of a guarded decision for us. Do we keep it and rent it in case? And Rob and I talked, and it was like, okay, if this does not work, goodness, and who knows, but if this move does not work in Costa Rica, we would not be coming back to the Bay Area anyway. It's too expensive and too many people. So that helped make the decision of selling the house.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Well, thank you very much. I'm not taking up any more of your time. I I like to keep it within an hour so I don't overstay my welcome, and I hope you'll meet with me again
Oh,
as
I look forward to it. I love our visits.
oh, I do too. I feel like I've made a new friend.
Me too.
But I keep watching the videos, and I'll watch the old ones, and I mean, I haven't come to a concrete idea about what this is. Oh, you speak to me more. That I have a car full of um. There was a school that posted free books, and I called them, and I was first in line. So when I went there, there was a cart full of books, and I said I didn't know I was getting so many books. So I have bird nests sitting on my steps going upstairs, and I have books in the car. And I thought, I could do something with this. And then watching you with the book that you made for your dad and cutting
Uh-huh.
out, it really is fascinating to me. Yeah, I that speaks to me.
Uh-huh.
That speaks to me. The early, just the altered book kind of speaks to me.
So
But
what's amazing to me, Anadora, when you say that, it's like every book holds a secret. And those early books of mine literally hold a secret.
well, I'm not going anywhere now. What do you what do you mean a secret?
So you've told me, 100 years of solitude. So there's
Yeah.
all kinds of secrets that I'm looking forward to reading, new things to me that I didn't know before, I've never seen. I'm really looking forward to that. So when this book is sitting on the shelf, it just looks like an ordinary book, only it says a thing of beauty. Okay, it's a book that says a thing of beauty, but yet its secret is unknown to the person that just sees the outside. That person has no idea what the secret is on the inside. Every book holds a secret, just in different ways.
Well, every book holds a secret, even if you don't do anything to it.
Exactly.
That's what you're saying. I guess that is what you're saying.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah. Huh.
But every book, like, what would be the secret of that book besides the fact that you made it for your dad, which obviously has meaning, that you put a picture of yourself for him in front? What would you say would be the story that you were?
Okay, so I don't get to tell the secret. I just get to provide the book.
Oh, I
So
see.
so my dad got to fill the secret.
Okay.
He's the one that got to, I could look at it and say, oh, yeah, yeah, just a plain old book, and then open it up and see my dad's secret that he chose to put in there. Yeah. Alice in Wonderland, which sits on our bookcase, holds money. That's our secret. That's her purpose. That's her secret. Yeah. That's amazing.
All right.
Okay.
More videos, more to watch, more to figure out,
Okay.
more to try to understand. Love to know what you think about that when you read the Gabriel
Oh, I'm
Garcia
so
Marquez.
excited. Yeah.
And then if you send me one of your The Girl with the Painted Hands, I will send you Monsoon,
Okay.
which I have still lots of copies of.
All right. Will you resend me your address through an email, please?
I will certainly do that.
Okay.
I'm not going anywhere. I'm
Okay.
following this through to the end. But
Yay.
I might start a channel though, but I will edit out. There's nothing we've said that
No,
really needs to be edited out
I
except that first part which was personal and didn't have anything to do about your grandsons and then your grandchildren, and that can be gone.
perfect. Absolutely perfect. And that makes me rethink my vocabulary. It's like that. We could have had an amazing conversation without me ever saying that about the grandbabies. And so that's something for me to think about. So that's good.
But that isn't really, because for me, that's just the friend part, you
Okay.
know?
Yeah.
That's just the hi, I'm your friend,
Right. Perfect.
how you, that doesn't go into what we've been talking about. This doesn't go into what we've been
Right.
talking about.
Yeah. Good.
Okay, I want you to send me some banana bread over after you get done.
It's bread pudding.
Oh, bread pudding. I love bread pudding.
Me too.
Well, I've been thinking about you eating it.
Okay.
Say hi to Rob. Bye.
Okay. All right. Thanks for your time, Annadora. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for your time.
My pleasure.